Welcome, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. John Arvosis here. Normally Washington, D.C. Today in Chicago for the next month, visiting Ma. Introduce folks. Introduce yourself. Say where you're from. I'm going to start TikTok right now. TikTok. Boom. Oops, that's not bad. There we go. Now we're on TikTok. With my glasses on to greet the first TikToker. Oop, you may get the little microphone cord in the way. C'est la vie. Tiffany, you're first on TikTok. Thanks for joining us. And everybody else here too. Everybody, feel free to introduce yourselves. Say where you're from. I know the regulars. You think everybody knows you, but there may be newbies here today. Woo. Hey, guys. Christopher, Kimi. Hi, Reality Check. Tara, good to see you there. KCMO, go Kansas City. Hey guys, Central New York, Florida, Arizona. Hey, Frank. Salut. Interesting. No, I have not heard from History Buffer CB. No, I'm hoping they're just changing. Hi from a Kenyan. Hey, Kenyan. We don't get enough Africans. I was just saying that the other day. We get a lot of folks from Europe and America and North America, but we don't get a lot of Africans. So good to see you. See, this is fun to see everybody dropping in. Franck, you better guarantee that we don't elect a fascist on Sunday in France. That's my friend Franck in Paris weighing in on YouTube. Norway, Northern Ireland. I did not hear about, yes, I did. There's fires out east in Russia, I believe. I did hear that. Whidbey Island, Washington. I know that's my mug. That's the mug my sister got me from off of Amazon that she saw. And it's very smart because it has it on both sides. So that way when you hold it up, people can see it. I was like, oh, that is smart because it's true. I've got some mugs where it's right here and you drink it and I've got like it's a Boris and Natasha mug, believe it or not, but it's back in DC. I'm going to have to bring it out for our special Russia update. Anyway, guys, yeah, usually we take the first 5 minutes and we just have folks introduce themselves. No, good to hear that, Frank. Yeah, Frank is saying the election is still unclear, but the odds are looking good that Macron, who's the normal candidate, will win and not the fascist, which is good. Yes, Rocky and Bullwinkle, but again, the mug, which is great, is literally is Boris and Natasha, which I think we told you guys about that the other day. While we're waiting a minute, 2 minutes longer for folks to come in. But a big cartoon series when I was a kid was the Rocky and Bullwinkle show. And it was about a flying squirrel and a big moose that was his friend. And the moose was kind of dumb and the squirrel was very smart with a little aviator goggles. And the big villains of the show were Boris and Natasha, who were Soviet spies. And I mean, in retrospect, it's a little weird because we had a kids show about Soviet spies, but it was hilariously well written. So to this day, all of us remember Boris and Natasha and Moose and Squirrel because their big slogan was, we are going to cause big trouble for Moose and Squirrel. Big trouble for Moose and Squirrel. Cracks me up. Sweden, Nicolina, good to see you. And I've got a new link, moderators, for I actually changed the fundraiser link. Vlad and I were getting, which I'm going to talk. Actually, I can even start talking about the fundraiser. We'll go another minute of me explaining our fundraiser we're doing, and then we'll dive right into the news. But Vlad, our intrepid friend in Ukrainian, who fled Kharkiv, which is the second biggest town, 1.5 million people in the Northeast, and moved his family to the southwestern Ukraine because it's a hell of a lot safer. Kharkiv's getting bombed nonstop. But we are continuing to raise money for humanitarian aid there. We are currently trying to raise $10,000 to buy 2 used cars. But basically, Vlad said they've got to be good enough to last the war, and then it doesn't matter. So, not spending a lot, but spending as little as they can on getting something that actually works. They're going to fill it with food, drive 2 cars, drive them cross-country, drop all the food off with the food kitchen in Kharkiv. I've put up videos from the food kitchen in the last day on my TikTok. And then the cars will be given to the for the volunteer food groups there, food aid, so they can actually drive the food to the people who need it. A lot of the people are hiding in the subways, of course, from the bombing. That's their bomb shelter. They've got to have food in the subways. So these guys are delivering it. Actually, the video I just put up on TikTok. I didn't even realize till I watched it after I did the video. It's a subway in Kharkiv, and there's a whole line of sort of older women are lining up for food, and they're doling out the food. And if you look, you'll see it's actually a subway station, and you can see like the subway line. So anyway, that's what we're doing. We've already raised $2,000. I'm hoping we can raise 10,000. And we'll see if we can. And anyway, and then we'll find even more things to raise money for. You guys have already donated 40,000. God bless you for that has gone a lot of it to food aid, but some other aid as well. So thank you. All right, I'm going to kick right in. As always, my asthma is bothering me a little, so I may do my inhaler again. I am going to have to tell my asthma doc, I don't like doing more asthma drugs. But in any case, questions. So what we'll do, I'll talk for 20 minutes, 25 minutes about the subjects of the day, why I think they matter, what's actually going on. I've got TikTok up there. I've got YouTube, Facebook, Twitter down here. So when you see me going back and forth, that's why. I've got all your comments so I can see them. For questions, once I'm done giving the summaries, if you can, on TikTok, use the question and answer function. I think there's actually a function that says Q&A. So use that because it lists, you guys usually have the most questions, actually, way more than YouTube, just saying. But the TikTokers have like 80 to 150 questions. So if you use that function, the Q&A tool, it'll literally list them in a row for me so I don't have to scroll and find them. So thank you for that. On YouTube, you already know how to do it. Put your question in the comment box. If you want to support my work and get your questions seen more readily, because there are literally 150 to 200 questions, if you buy a super chat question, I always promise I'll get to that as the next issue I discuss. And regardless, it will absolutely be addressed during the show. Whereas with 200 questions, there's no way I can get to all of them. So it's my way of thanking you for supporting my work. All right, let's dive in, guys. So, the last thing, I swear to God, I'm starting. The last thing, thanks to the TikTokers, you already see them putting them in here. We developed a new policy the other day for our discussions, where whenever a Russian troll comes into the room, everyone throws sunflowers at them in the comments. So you're going to even see some sunflowers already on TikTok there. And every time a Ukrainian visits us, because we have had the good fortune to have a number of Ukrainians visit us the last few days. And I think John DS is already with us on YouTube. I saw somebody mention, I've seen somebody mention, but I don't know. Mosaic, I actually haven't heard anything about that. That's interesting. I doubt it. Oh, well, no. What you're probably, I'm going to jump in a quick question somebody had just to throw it. Yeah. And by the way, John D, if you're on YouTube, which I think you are, some people are already throwing up sunflowers on YouTube on TikTok for you. So just to be aware, it's very cute. Actually, I will, before I jump in, fine. I'll start with one question because Mosaic just threw it up. Through the question on the screen says, can you fact check Malcontent News? I know he's good, but he said we've liberated Mariupol. What he might have said, you want to listen again, is Putin. I'll even start with that story. Putin is saying he's liberated Mariupol. Mariupol is that city in the south that he's been bombing for 7 weeks. Just disaster what he's done to it. Cut off their food, cut off their water, cut off their heating, cut off their electricity. 7 weeks of nothing, these poor people. They've been starving to death. They've been under nonstop bombing. 90% of the buildings are destroyed. This is the town. I think it's important to give you the history because you remember, this is the town where the Russians blew up that theater that had the word children written on the outside. Remember, this is the town where the Russians blew up that maternity hospital where the women were giving birth to their children. So that's what this town is, the town of so many human rights violations, so many war crimes. So this town Putin's been trying to get, there's a core group of fighters that have been hiding out in a factory, a steel factory, and basically jumping out of the factory and shooting the Russians. It's a factory that was designed during the Soviet years. So for whatever crazy Soviet reason, it's designed to withstand a nuclear attack, which is, again, crazy. But guess what it means? It means the guys hiding inside, the Russians can't get to them. So kind of funny. Anyway, so what Putin finally did today is he declared victory anyway. He said, we have liberated Mariupol from the Nazis, even though, they do control most of the town now, other than this huge steel plant. But they're not really in much better shape than they were a day or two ago. Yet now they're claiming they liberated it because it would be too dangerous for the Russian troops to invade the steel factory. Basically, Putin's admitting he couldn't get the entire town, and they're trying to move on. They claim they're going to try to seal the people inside. I don't know what that means. The problem is there's still reportedly several hundred citizens in the town as well who went there because the Russians had been bombing and murdering them all on the outside. So Putin could very well be sentencing these citizens to death, which would not be surprising as he's done it a lot. Anyway, that was a long way of saying, I wonder if Malcontent was saying that Putin says it's liberated. Maybe he even said Mariupol's liberated and said, well, if you listen to Putin, it is, so that's my guess on that. Oh, Nicolina, thank you. That was sweet of you. All right, let me jump with I'll put you up just to acknowledge that, Nicolina. Let me jump right in. So on the other substance. So Mariupol was our first story anyway, so that was the perfect segue. Russia has refused a truce for Easter. As you may know, this is Orthodox Easter this weekend. I'm Greek Orthodox, it's ours. Bulgarian, Lithuanian, Russian, Ukrainian, all the Eastern Orthodox faiths. Our Easter is this weekend. And the UN Secretary General had asked the Russians and the Ukrainians if they would, to Putin and Zelensky, if they would both consider, having a ceasefire for 4 days to stop the fighting, to honor, from Thursday to Sunday. And Putin came out today and said, nope, that would be he called it, that would be pseudo peacekeeping. Whatever. Biden is sending more aid. We knew this as of yesterday. Biden announced the aid today. He gave the details. It's going to be $800 million, including, and these are good things he's sending. This is exactly what the Ukrainians need: heavy artillery, howitzers, ammunition, and a newly designed drone. Listen to this: the Phoenix Ghost drone system was developed by the Pentagon to meet Ukrainian needs as it is fighting Russia's war, with a minimal amount of training needed for Ukrainian forces, said the Pentagon spokesman. Pretty cool. The new U.S. military aid package includes 121 of these newly designed drones. That's good to see, because we're doing more, but it's also showing that we're actually trying to design, new weapons, or in this case, new reconnaissance. Actually, let me tell you what it really is. This stuff is reconnaissance, but what the Ukrainians have become very good at is using drones that don't have weapons. Some drones do. The Turkish drones, they have weapons. But using these other drones that don't have weapons, but using them and able to tie them in with their artillery folks so that they're able to say, okay, we've spotted, with our heat sensor, we've spotted a Russian tank hiding in those bushes or that forest. And here is the GPS of exactly where it is, Mr. Artillery. And then the artillery goes boom and blows it up. So very nice. And thank you for I'm getting haircut wishes on TikTok. Thank you. I'm happier with my hair now. It's not hanging over my face, and I'm not spending I finally understand why people with longer hair are doing this all day. It kept falling on my forehead and was driving me bonkers. The Pentagon says, this was an interesting observation. The Pentagon said today that Ukraine has more tanks on the ground in Ukraine than Russia does. Russia does continue to send more troops, of course, growing concern. I did see one analyst last night. It was kind of a long analysis, but he was saying, and it's somebody I like and respect on Twitter, but what he was saying was the next week and a half is going to be crucial for Russia. They better have a huge breakthrough in the next week and a half, he felt. Otherwise, at that point, I think he was saying time's running out, because at that point, you start running into the same problems again of the supplies coming in. You've got to get more ammunition. You've got to get food and water to the troops themselves getting run down. Mind you, a lot of these troops are already run down. Some of them are new. A lot of them are the troops they had in the north moving over. Even the troops around Mariupol. Putin is now moving those troops up from Mariupol. A lot of them, not all of them, up and maybe a little bit east, because they're pretty much south of the fighting in the east. But these are people who've been fighting for 7 weeks or whatever in Mariupol. So a lot of them are not necessarily really able to fight very well either, because they're exhausted. So anyway, this one expert I really like, this is the Oliver guy I was telling you guys about. I think it's Philip Oliver. I'm not sure. But he was saying that over in the UK, he thinks the Russians have about a week and a half to try to do this. And then after that, then it's up to the Ukrainians. And it basically that it'll take, I don't know if he thought it will take 2.5 weeks for the Ukrainian counterattack to kick in, but that's when then we see if the Ukrainians can really take the Russians on. But again, it is still up for grabs, but I'm reading a lot of the experts I like who are saying the Russians are in real trouble. That there's no reason to believe the Russians will be any better off in the east than they were elsewhere. Others disagree. So, don't get your hopes totally up. In other bad news, mass grave was spotted in Manhush, Ukraine, which is about 20 kilometers west of Mariupol. 20 kilometers would be, I'm going to guess 14 miles or so. Don't get picky with me. I know someone's going to go, it's 15.5 miles. But for an American, that's close enough. 14 miles west of Mariupol. The mass grave is 985 feet long. That's 300 meters. They think there's between 3,000 and 900 bodies in the grave. And because the town itself of Manhush, I Googled, the town itself is only like 7,300 people. They think these are actual bodies of people from Mariupol that the Russians then like took in trucks over there and just dumped them. I mean, just again, really disgusting stuff. Carrie had a question. The Carrie Brass guy. Kirby, who is the Pentagon spokesman, said the drones that the U.S. is sending were not designed for Ukraine. Interesting. Okay, I think I was looking at the New York Times or the Washington Post claiming that. It was designed for a similar use case. He declined to say much about the specs of the drone. Okay, thank you. Okay. Still, okay, so I give them a little less credit because I thought they designed a new drone, which is pretty cool. But still, I'm glad to see us. The Ukrainians really wanted drones. They really wanted artillery. They're getting it. And the airplane thing, I think I told you guys yesterday, or I read it this morning. A correction came out. I love our corrections. We're always getting corrections. We did all help the Ukrainians fix 20 of their fighter jets and bombers by sending spare parts. Now the Pentagon was saying, I think as of this morning or last night I was reading it, that nobody gave them more fighter jets. Because remember, the talk was they also got a lot of new fighter jets. Now I read not really the case. So, I wish they would get those stories straight. Nonetheless, even 20 new fighter jets and bombers is huge, meaning we sent them the spare parts they needed to fix the ones they had because they otherwise weren't able to use them. So that's, 20 is still good. What else here? Actually, you know what? We are going to do an asthma break. It's bothering me today. This is bumming me out. I'm going to have to call my asthma. I hate taking, it's these inhaled steroids you have to do, and I hate taking them just because over the long term, they're bad for your bones, they're bad for your heart. I mean, these guys are fine. It's just like a momentary thing, but one moment. 10. There we go. I'll do another one in a minute, but I never have asthma attacks. I just get like a tight chest, and I'm getting it. I can tell when talking to you guys, I'm getting winded, and I never knew years ago that was a sign of my asthma bothering me. So you learn things. Russian, oh God, poor Mariupol. So Mariupol, as I said, this town that's getting the bejesus kicked out of it, southeastern Ukraine. Remember I always say, like, you've got Crimea down in the south, the peninsula that the Russians stole in 2014. You've got eastern Ukraine that the Russians are trying to steal now. And if you want to connect the two, you want to connect this land bridge. The Russians have got most of the land bridge except Mariupol. So that's why Mariupol is so important for connecting the two. So let me, you know what I didn't, I'm sorry. You know what I didn't finish doing? I was explaining the fundraiser at the very beginning and I got off track. So we're doing a fundraiser. We're going to buy, if we get enough money, $10,000 to buy 2 used cars in Ukraine that will be used to transport food across the country to Kharkiv, the second largest city, which is getting bombed, bejesus bombed. A lot of old people are not able to leave their homes. If you actually saw, there was a wonderful but horrific broadcast on CNN about a week ago of Clarissa Ward visiting this old, like 86-year-old grandma in her home, and she couldn't get out of her apartment. She's like in a wheelchair. Nobody helped her. And she was terrified. She said, the electricity goes off. I hear the bombing, and I never thought I would die like this. The Ukrainians were able to come the next day and help her. She's now in a shelter, thank God, or, an old people's home or whatever, miles away. But a lot of the old people can't get out of their homes. They need food deliveries. The people in the subways need food deliveries. So we're going to help them get a lot of food. Quick little point on that. The reason we are buying food in the West and driving it all the way to the East is the government in Kharkiv, the city, has asked aid groups not to buy food at the grocery stores. They were originally, because remember initially I was telling you how we actually gave like a $4,000 donation to one of the groups, and thank you for that on the TikTok, how we were actually giving monetary donations before we switched to food. Well, the government's getting worried that if we use this money, not us, but all the aid groups, to buy food at the grocery stores are empty. So it's kind of like, what's the taking from Peter to give Paul, or whatever the expression is, stealing from Peter to give Paul. So we're now shipping food from the rest of Ukraine where food is plentiful, like the Southwest. So anyway, that's what they're going to do. The way you can donate is I put up a new link. if you go to my bio on TikTok and the Be Kind and the moderators can show you here, but remember I changed, it's no longer a direct link to that page, Be Kind. Go to my bio. In the Beacons link on my TikTok, you'll see Beacons, click it. And the top two links tell you how. The top one is for Vlad's PayPal, my friend Vlad in Ukraine. Just send it to him directly. I'd prefer you did that. If you don't have PayPal, use the second link that I put up that mentions not PayPal. And when you get to it, you'll see there's an option for credit cards. You don't need PayPal. Just use that. Let's not do Cash App. Let's not do Venmo. I'm trying to keep those accounts separate so that it is painfully clear that all the money coming into this PayPal is for these fundraisers. It helps me keep track of it. It also helps me if this ever gets audited, by the government, that I can prove the money came in, the money went out, 100% in, 100% out. So anyway, there you go. So yeah, Be Kind. And you guys, if you could grab the, you could either post, you could actually, I may even have Vlad's, I do. Hold on a second. I'm going to edit this. Sorry guys, one quick second. I'm going to post Vlad's, oops, there we go. I'm going to post Vlad's PayPal for folks so you've got it. Okay, there we go. At least on YouTube you've got it. Okay, let me continue. Sorry about that, but I realized I hadn't told you guys how to get in there, so thank you. Okay. Oh yeah, so the Russians kept shelling today. So poor Mariupol couldn't get people out of there again today. Hi, are you still a CIA asset? Yes, Boris. Don't tell anybody. It'd be our secret. You crazy Russians. I hope somebody's just banning that guy's butt like so fast. So fast you could see Putin's fat face spin. So the Russians have been shelling Mariupol continually. They can't get out. The civilians can't get out. So the escape of all the humanitarian, thank you for the decorations on TikTok. The humanitarian corridors were stopped yet again because the Russians are selling. The Russians do not want the civilians saved. I mean, they don't. They want to terrorize them, and that's what they're doing. This was interesting. As a result of the Moskva sinking. So remember the Moskva? That would be President Putin's favorite ship that the Ukrainians sunk. Bye-bye. Well, the Moskva, because of it being sunk by the Ukrainians with their two new cruise missiles that they developed, the Russian ships have had to move further away from shore. Because if they're closer to shore, they found out they get sunk. So they've moved further away. Well, if you've got the same number of ships and you move further away from shore, and mind you, they're trying to do a naval blockade. That's the whole point of what they're doing. Excuse me. That's the whole point of what they're doing. The naval blockade has gotten thinner, because the same number of ships are out, more spread out. And now it might be possible, the experts are saying, for Ukraine to be able to take some small boats and possibly break the blockade and get some food in, get some food out. So good news on that front. Also, this is interesting about the Moskva as well. Also, at least 10 families of crew members have publicly voiced their frustration about getting conflicting reports about whether their sons are still alive, missing, or dead. And they're not. Like 10 different families can't even get an answer. And what's weird about that is, think about it. They know who they found. I mean, they know, right? You're either somebody who you found or somebody who's missing. Why can't they tell the families? Excuse me, but they're not telling the families. So very, very bad. Oh, I've got some good and bad categories coming up. So in the good German category and good Netherlands, the Netherlands is sending rapid-fire artillery to Ukraine, and the Germans are sending ammunition and training. Good for the Germans. Then we have the bad German category. On February, this story broke last night. People were not happy. Bild, one of the big German news outlets, if you call them a newspaper, but Bild is huge. Bild reports yesterday that on February 27th, so we're talking, today's the 21st, almost 2 months ago, right when the war started. Thank you for that. Follow Felicia. On February 27th, the Chancellor of Germany, the head, their president, so to speak, the Chancellor of Germany was given a 48-page list of weapons and equipment that could be shared with Ukraine. And the intent was their defense industry put together this list, 48 pages, for him to share with Ukraine, and Ukraine could go through it and pick what they needed, right? Instead of giving it to Ukraine, their chancellor sat on the list for 2 months. He released it yesterday or the day before, and the list magically was missing half the weapons. He took half of the weapons off the list because he didn't want to give them the really good stuff. This is why somebody had asked the other day why Germany was getting a bad rap. This is why Germany's getting a bad rap. this guy and his party, the party itself is having a little bit of a civil war over Ukraine because some of them are rightfully annoyed that he's not doing enough. But yeah, he's not doing enough. Good EU, the European Union, the president of the European Union, Charles Michel, told European Pravda that the European Union had agreed to supply heavy weapons to Ukraine. This is good. First of all, good. Heavy weapons are the good stuff that they need. But listen to this. It's the first time I've seen somebody say it, and it's a question you guys have brought up before, and I'm kind of impressed seeing it. But there won't be many announcements about it. So they're saying we're going to be giving them a lot of heavy weapons they need, but we're pretty much not going to tell you about it from now on, which, frankly, not a bad idea. As long as the Ukrainians know it's there, and as long as the Ukrainians say, we love you, we got it, good enough for me. Why let the Russians know? Frankly, it makes it even harder for the Russians to do their war planning, because the Russians then go, we don't even know, heavy weapons. Is that artillery? What is it? And how many are they getting? How many ammunition? When we keep announcing it, it lets the Russians literally do the math and say, okay, here's how many we think the Ukrainians have left. If they don't know, all of a sudden they get a little more worried about what they're doing. So good for the EU for thinking of that finally. As I said, it's an issue a lot of you have brought up before, and you were right. Clearly somebody thought and said, yeah, let's stop telling people how many weapons. Israelis. Okay, the Israelis are getting better slowly, but it's an improvement. Israel's defense minister, Benny Gantz, approved the delivery of bulletproof vests. Oh, thank you, Cubby. I didn't notice. Thank you for the hat. Has approved approved the delivery of bulletproof vests and helmets on April 20th to Ukrainian rescue services. The move marks a shift in Israel's position to providing equipment to Ukraine amid Russia's war. I will say, bulletproof vests and helmets to the rescue people is nice. It's not exactly going to, it'll help win the war, because then the rescue people don't die and they can help more soldiers. But, Israel, we've been helping you for decades, going on decades. I think you can do a little bit more to help other people who are undergoing genocide. Bad Russians. Oh, this was really crazy. A Russian lawmaker, and I've only got two other stories. And then, I did see there was a question there. I'm sorry. I'll jump. You know what? Wait, let me jump to this. Sorry. I just saw. Oh, this is funny. Okay. Sorry. Sergeant Kabuto. I hadn't even seen your question. I had it saved when I did the German thing. Sergeant Kabuto was asking on YouTube, what do you think is the truth to Germany backing away from supplying heavy weapons to Ukraine? Well, as I said, that story coming out yesterday says that clearly Scholz, the chancellor, see, I'm finally remembering his name, clearly he struck half the weapons from that list. I've seen numerous articles about, like I said, infighting in his own party. I think, was it SPD or something? I don't even know his party, to be honest. I used to know, I didn't pay much attention to German politics as I do like French, but I used to know the parties there, but now I'm forgetting. But there were articles about within his own party about him fighting, and other party leaders standing up and saying, we're not doing enough. And people defending him saying we're doing enough. So the battle seems to be real, because you've got their own party leaders standing up and criticizing him for this. And as I said, this story from Bild came out yesterday, the German press, saying, they cut half the weapons off the list. I don't know what their problem. We know what their problem is. Germany has been trying forever to have this buddy-buddy relationship with Russia, and they do have a strong economic relationship, certainly in terms of energy. And, we'll see, but not the best. A Russian lawmaker proposed forcing Ukrainian prisoners of war to donate blood to injured Russian soldiers. Now, he's only one lawmaker, but still pretty screwed up. The two other stories, and then we'll get to questions. And today's not going too long. The Russians. Okay, the Russians announced their latest sanctions today. Thank you. My sister got the mug. My sister got the mug for this. She said you can use it for the broadcast because it's got what is that? I thought it said I love Ukraine. I stand for Ukraine on both sides of the mug. She said this way people will see it when you're drinking it. I was like, oh, good idea. So she'll be glad to know you guys are liking it. Russia announced new sanctions today. Hilarious. Against, among other people, Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg, George Stephanopoulos of ABC. He's a big TV news guy, basically, does the morning show. It's like, okay. Biana Golodriga, who's a big news presenter. We wouldn't call it presenter here. I guess in Europe you might. But, news host for CNN. originally born in the Soviet Union. I think she's Moldovan, but born in the Soviet Union, and very critical, of course, like every American news network other than, that which shall not be named, although even that which shall not be named has been pretty good, other than Tucker Carlson and, what's her face? The blonde has not been fabulous. But George Stephanopoulos, the CEO of LinkedIn, talk about bizarre, the president of Booz Allen Hamilton, which is a big consulting firm, the president of General Dynamics and Northrop Grumman, which are big defense industry here. And then they threw in, and again, this is important because it kind of shows you the pettiness of and frankly, it shows you that the Russians are not doing well and they're pissed about the help that we are giving. Because listen to who they added to the list. Almost all Americans, mind you. They add to the list the Deputy Health Secretary of Pennsylvania. So not even the health secretary, the Secretary of Health's deputy of one of our states. So it's not even the federal government. It's a state government, right? We've got 50 states. It's a state government, and it's not even the health commissioner. It's the deputy health person. Well, why did they go after her? Because she's transgender. Listen to how and she's famous because she's the most senior, I believe, transgender official or that we know of, openly transgender in America, in American government. Listen to this. They list her name in the sanctions as Richard/Rachel Levin. They put her male name she had originally down along with her female name just to be rude. And mind you, she's on the list. She's a deputy health commissioner or secretary in one of our states. It's insane that she would be on a sanctions list. It just means they're just being jerks. They were like, let's put the transgender woman on the list. Literally, it makes no sense. But to me, it's an interesting indication of how they're doing because it means they're pissed. They're pissed. And they're saying, hey, I know Americans are fighting over this transgender thing in Florida. Let's throw a transgender thing on the list or something. But it's just so, and putting her name she had before, as a man, like why? It's just, it's petty. But again, petty is good in the sense that it shows us that they're really not happy. And they're really not happy because they're not winning. So last story, I'm going to try to do this one appropriately, but I thought my TikTok, thank you for the dog, Princess. I thought my TikTok was appropriately respectful. A pro-Russian blogger in Kherson. Kherson has been occupied by the Russians for a while now. For a number of weeks, since the war started. This guy, Valery Kaleshov or whatever, was a pro-Russian blogger. I already gave the story away. I gave it away. In Kherson, he has been working, I don't even know, 5, 6, 7 years. He's been blogging there and has been a pro-Russian propagandist. Once Russia took over the town, then he became a pro-Russian collaborator. He was found dead in his car this morning, shot dead. Now, the interesting thing is, I was assuming it was partisans who did it, meaning Ukrainians. He's Ukrainian, but he's a traitor, meaning other Ukrainians who did it. Somebody mentioned on TikTok, and it was a very good point. What if it was the Russians who shot him because he was some Ukrainian guy sitting in his car? And the Russians just figured, they like to shoot people for no reason, which would be interesting. Again, I am not gloating. Let the Russians dare say I'm gloating. I'm just saying it's interesting because it just would be interesting if they killed their own. Nonetheless, the reason I learned about the story actually was because one of the, again, defense people I like that I follow on Twitter was giving this as an example of what the Russians are going to go through if, for example, they try to hold an election. They're talking potentially of trying to hold an election in the east where eastern Ukraine, once they occupy it, if they can occupy it, eastern Ukraine will vote and decide to join Russia. And basically, the defense analyst I was reading said, whoever's holding those elections better be darn careful. And they gave the story of this blogger and basically saying, just that, you better be darn careful because you may not survive election day if you're an election official, or frankly, anybody even going to vote. My guess is they may just tell people don't even show up to vote because they're going to lie anyway. And frankly, why would you show up to vote? So they can shoot you on the way out? Could you imagine them? They'd look at your ballot and then they'd say, okay, him, horrible. Okay. You guys always kind of make me laugh on YouTube because you go slow with the super chat questions, and then you throw like 10 at me at once, which I love that you do it. Sorry, I've still got like, itch on the back. Haircut remnants. Wow, thank you for the glasses. All right, let's start with the questions. I've already done one there. Finland already applied to join NATO? Get out of here, Jessica. Really? I mean, wait. They were debating this thing for like 3 weeks. Get out of here. Did somebody else confirm that? I'm assuming the blogger was Ukrainian, Mandy, because it said a pro-Russian blogger in Kherson, which makes me think they would have said a Russian blogger in Kherson, right? If he were Russian. Okay, check, guys. Yeah, because I'd be very surprised if Finland announced it yet. They just began the debate yesterday, I want to say, at most, and it was supposed to take weeks of them debating. So I have a very hard time believing I don't think they would have applied by yet. I mean, Google and see. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'd be surprised. Actually, let me look for a TikTok question. And if you guys want, do a quick, okay, nothing in the headlines. Thank you. I was going to say, do a quick look on the headlines to make sure, because sometimes the news does break when we're on here, which is great. Heard about oligarchs killed with their families. MRZ Ham asks, I have not heard about that. No. Interesting if it's true, obviously, because it would sound like it's Putin taking people out. But I did not hear about that. No. Very interesting. Reports about the concentration camps in West Siberia. No, but I did read, it depends what you're talking about. I did read today that the Russians, allegedly, the Ukrainians are saying, took a number of children from Ukraine and shipped them all over the country, including to Sakhalin Island. I think it was Sakhalin, which is like, again, the Russian Far East, 11 time zones away. I mean, crazy. 2 families. Are you saying 2 families were killed of the oligarchs? That'd be interesting. I didn't see that. Mariupol, they're still fighting. The Russians kind of declared victory because they don't know what else to do. Where is there? Is there fire going on in Russia? Like I said, someone puts, is there fire going on in Russia? She writes with a smiley face. I'm trying to be nice here. I'm not going to give TikTok a reason to kick me off. So I would never gloat over a natural disaster happening in Russia, or frankly, a disaster that maybe somebody set. I would never gloat. Nor would I gloat over a blogger who was a traitor and then is no longer blogging. The Carrie Bress guy, given the aid from the U.S. is essentially money we don't have and have to borrow, are these transfers structured that Ukraine will pay it back? Ooh, that's a really interesting question. Then Russia would have to pay them in reparations. I keep reading in general that a lot of these are arms sales. In general, I'm reading arms sales to Ukraine. I'm not reading necessarily getting a lot of stuff other than those first planes. Remember those first planes that were supposed to come from Pennsylvania Pennsylvania. The Russians have me thinking of Pennsylvania. I'm thinking Poland and I'm thinking Pennsylvania. Yes. The Pennsylvanians with their MiGs, they're never step on Pennsylvania. No, but the new planes that were supposed to come from Poland, the Poles said they were going to give for free. And that's the only time I've seen things mentioned for free. So I don't know. Some of this could be military aid. I don't know. I don't know, actually. It's a very interesting question, how it's being structured. I mean, clearly Ukraine's in a position where they've got to say, give it to me anyway. What do they do? But Russia paying it back in reparations would be great, but some of that we would have to declare Russia a terrorist state, I think, in order to make it so that we could get the money back in reparations. So Ukraine could sue them directly, for example, or maybe the U.S. could sue them, right? But this is one of the reasons it would be beneficial to declare Russia a terrorist state, because it makes all of the confiscated money up for grabs, which would be great. Harvey, I know I'm not even looking at Harvey's going to hit me with something I haven't heard about, but let's see. This is Harvey always finds a new news, which we love him for. Opinions on Jeremy Corbyn, who I can't stand. And you didn't explain who Corbyn was. Corbyn at least was the opposition leader for the left in the UK. Now he's just a very annoying old man who still gets on people's nerves. Opinion on he was kind of an anti-Semite and lots of other things that we on the left are not supposed to like. I shouldn't even say we on the left. As far as Ukraine, I'm in the middle. We all should be in the middle on Ukraine. Jeremy calling for NATO to be disbanded. Is he high? Should politicians within NATO be having these types of conversations at the moment? No. That is, he actually said that in the last day. The man is if that's true, the man's an embarrassment, absolute embarrassment. He, I mean, I don't follow UK politics, British politics very much, but I even knew from what I was reading that this guy I'm with you, Hannah. This guy as the party leader for the left in the UK was ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous to make this man their leader. Basically anti-Semite, didn't care about the anti-Semitism. And he's like a freaking, but I mean, like, he's like an old school socialist, not to get into that whole issue, but as even Swedish friends agreed with me, they were talking about socialism and socialism. They were kind of saying, like, there's socialism like back in the 70s when these governments liked the Soviets, and there's socialism today that's social democrat and a mixture of stuff with capitalism, totally different things. Corbyn strikes me as the kind of guy who's one of those old world guys who's a little too loving of the Soviet Union and just can't get over the fact that they're gone. Putin, call me, send me little hammer sickle kisses. Yeah, no, I don't want to weigh in too much because I don't know enough about your guys' politics, but that is the most dangerous and offensive thing to do, to call for NATO to be disbanded in the middle of a war where NATO is playing a key role. It is aid and comfort for the enemy. Yes, everything that people thought about this guy was true, and it just upsets me all the more that you guys were not able to get rid of him, because, I mean, he's gone now. I saw him being just belittled on Twitter the other day, thank God, but what a jerk. What a complete jerk. What else we got on TikTok here? I would love to be sanctioned. Oh my God, I would love to be sanctioned. Fuzzy asks, I'm sure you were asking that as a joke. Are you concerned that you'd be sanctioned? I would love it. First of all, I see like the Russians are trying to do it as like that, you sanction us, we sanction you. The problem is, it's like, I'm trying to think of a way of saying this that isn't offensive to Americans. I'm trying to find a better way to say this, but basically, they live in a dump. Why would we want to go to Russia ever, let alone now? Russia was nice to visit. I enjoyed meeting people, were very nice. The country's poor as hell. St. Petersburg was very pretty, very poor country, run like a police state, unfortunately. Like in a million years, I don't know why somebody would want to go to Russia nowadays, especially. And the idea that sanctioning you from going to Europe and America is the same thing as sanctioning Europeans and Americans from going to, the middle of Bumble-F-ski Russia is absolutely ridiculous. And for them, they're so proud of themselves. Oh, yes, they can no longer come here and have borscht for breakfast, lunch, and dinner 7 days a week. Oh, scary. No, I mean, I just, whatever. They're idiots. But there were two. I did highlight you guys. Good. Adam Ribber. Can U.S. citizens cyber attack Russia without U.S. consequences? Asking for a friend, are we, Adam? It's an interesting question, because I think it's the problem the U.S. would have as well. What if third party, and the U.S. government warned about this just again the other day. They said the Russians or third party cyber operatives could launch a cyber attack against us. And what do you do in terms of holding Russia responsible if your cyber attack isn't clear that it's from the Russians, but it's from a third party, right? I mean, very interesting. Thank you for the sunflowers. Did we have a Russian eruption on here? Where do you, how would you respond? So the same kind of thing, like if an individual American did it and they found out, now knowing the Russians, they'd probably blame us anyway and attack us. But if they did, then we would attack them back, which would still, I'm not sure it would work, but that's really interesting. Now, the other problem you might have is even the U.S. government might come after you. You never know. I mean, the U.S. government probably isn't thrilled having anybody do cyber attacks in principle, but during wartime, that's a really funny question. Like, would they even prosecute? If they knew it was you or your friend, would they prosecute you? Would the U.S. knowing that you did it for the war? I'd at the very least demand a jury trial and say, prove to this jury why I should be punished for helping stop a genocide, and we'll talk. And you're going to have at least one juror like me that's going to go, you go, Adam. But of course, we're not talking about you, Adam, so But in any case, and now Todd's going to ask me a hard one here because I haven't seen it yet. So, did you watch 60 Minutes yet? No, I didn't. That's the 60 Minutes that has Zelensky on it. The Russians left several thousand Ukrainian troops at the steel mill in Mariupol. We don't know how many. It could be a couple thousand. We don't know. Yeah, isn't that a strategic crap move? Well, I mean, it's weird. The Russians Putin claimed today, and it was this wonderful video because at one point he's talking to somebody. I don't know. I didn't know who it looked like, his foreign minister or some guy, and Putin's sitting there and he's like holding the. Hold on, I'm gonna move you out of the way, Todd, so we can see. He's like holding the end of the table like this, and his face is. He's looking fat and bloated and like he's holding a roller coaster. He's clearly got some kind of a problem with one of his arms, and he kind of holds the table. His right arm, I guess, he holds the table, so you can't tell. It is his right arm because I saw him the other day in a video clip from before, and he's walking into that great hall when they open the doors, and you see his left arm swinging, and his right arm is held next to him like this, not moving. There's something wrong with him. So his right arm is holding the table, which almost makes you think Parkinson's or something because he's trying not to shake. Is typically why you hold tight, or you're losing it and you think you're going to fall. But yeah, this is where he was announcing they were no longer going to that they declared victory in Mariupol and they were no longer going to attack the troops, and that they were going to like somehow seal everybody in so not even a fly could get out, he said. And I don't know if they're going to be able to pull that off. I would worry, if I were the Russians, for starters, that anybody who first of all, how they're going to seal you in. You know, he may be talking about dropping these humongous bombs on top so that everything's just a disaster. I mean, pretty sick stuff, especially with civilians in there. So I don't know. I mean, one hopes in the meantime, he's going to have to leave some troops. And when he does, those troops keep getting picked off by the Ukrainians, you know? So we shall see. All right. Let me jump to a Tik Tok question. He could have had a stroke. Oh, absolutely. No, there could be lots of problems with that man. I mean, there obviously are, but in terms of this stuff. I keep wondering about that, Kay Fuller, whether Ukraine could take back Crimea. I hope they do. I would say it doesn't seem like the Ukrainians are thinking about it, because what the Ukrainians, their last offer they offered, again, weeks ago when they were negotiating, was it included a lot of things, but it put Crimea as being putting it off for 15 years, and they would have ongoing negotiations with the Russians over it, which surprised me because it was kind of like, God, you're almost legitimizing Crimea for another 15 years as part of Russia, almost. So that surprised me. Now, if everything goes crazy, and mind you, the Ukrainians get all the kind of equipment they need. That was another issue. I'm sorry, that was another issue why some of the experts were saying Russia's going to have a problem, because Russia only has a finite amount of equipment. They've got a lot, like they've got a lot of artillery, but it's still a finite amount. The Ukrainians they have finite, but they keep getting more and more from the West. And it looks like hopefully the West is going to keep supplying them. So that gets very interesting, right? As far as whether over the long term, Russia can't keep up the war as much as the Ukrainians can. And that leads you to questions like Crimea, which is the territory in the South that the Russians stole in 2014. I mean, if you get a situation where the Russians kind of lose, where they're not able to hold on to the East and the Ukrainians push them back. If I were the Ukrainians, I'd say maybe it's time to take back Crimea. Yeah, you could. But again, I think that's a very optimistic scenario, right? I mean, that's something that, we'll have to see. But yep, ask your questions in the Q&A, guys, because that's where I'm going to read them. Yep, let me scroll down. Already a good number in here. Where does Kyiv stand? You have friends who are leaving. Interesting. Credilli asks on TikTok. The thing with Kyiv is right now the Russians, from what I know, right? I mean, but the Russians have been bombing. They've been bombing Kharkiv, even worse, the second largest city in the Northeast. But they're still bombing Kyiv and around. Life has gotten back to normal in Kyiv, so to speak. The government is still recommending people not return. I believe it was until the end of May. So that's 6 weeks from now, practically, because there's concern that they're still going to be bombing. But even worse, depending on how the East goes, there is concern that if Russia were able to successfully attack in the East, thank you for that, Tom. Yes, sir. If Russia were able to successfully attack in the East, they would then potentially try to take Kharkiv or just go straight for Kyiv again. So Kyiv, the capital, is not necessarily off the books, off the plan, off the table. for Russia to go after. Same thing with Odessa in the south. Beautiful city of Odessa, southwest Ukraine, currently looking much better after the Moskva was sunk, the Moscow that the Ukrainians sank, the now submarine Moscow. But it made it a little safer for Odessa, but they're still concerned that, like, if the Russians do well enough in the east, they could try to go after Kyiv and they could try to go after Odessa. So, that may be why you're hearing of friends who are leaving, because, to some degree, and they're not wrong, you could be looking at this the way people did Kharkiv and other cities where they didn't leave and then they kind of wish they did, So I don't know. I'm not going to pick sides, but it may not be the craziest idea if you live in anywhere in Ukraine to say, what, if you could move to a safer area in the southwest or somewhere, may not be the worst idea, but I can't, who knows? So Jennifer Boyer-Nazinski weighs in. One of the hyphenated names I can actually pronounce. We've got a few here that are not easy. 2 oligarchs and their family have died one day apart. Sergei Protosenya in Spain and Vladislav Avatev in Moscow. Okay, I did see somebody dying abroad. Yes, maybe it must be the Spain one, because I remember the one abroad. First of all, yes, I didn't know the 2. I saw the one because the wife and kid were shot dead, and he was found hung or hanged. Yes, I do remember this because I remember hearing that and going, well, were they killed and someone tried to cover it up by making it look like him, right? I shot them and then I hanged myself. Or did he shoot them and then hang himself? The whole thing is very weird. Having it be 2 days apart means to me that Putin is having them killed. And frankly, knowing Putin, you probably would do that because you'd have them killed in order to send messages to every other oligarch that you better shut the F up and toe the line, because I will kill you and your family. Knowing Putin, they always say, like, Occam's razor, which is like, find the simplest explanation. When we're talking about Russia, the simplest explanation isn't that the guy went crazy and killed his family. It's that Vladimir Putin had his family murdered. That's the simplest explanation. I had forgotten. I think I read that yesterday about the one guy because I thought it was interesting and weird that the kids were shot and he was hung. But the fact that there's a second one, forget it. And was the second one, this Avatev, was his family killed as well? That's awfully weird if he was killed as well. I mean, put in the comments if he was killed as well. I mean, obviously just put it for free, but I'd be curious to see that. Mama Kendra, and then Carrie, I've got yours saved as well. Mama Kendra, if Pootie gets taken out, who is his next highest up? I don't know. Is he just as evil or more so? You don't hear about anybody. No, I do know you don't hear about anybody else. And when I see people talk about succession, like if Putin were to die or if Putin were to be forced out, that it's not really clear who would take over, right? So I don't know. I don't know enough about sort of the current lay of the land to say, would it be military? Would it be security services? I guess it partially depends how he leaves, right? If he gets taken out by the military, then maybe the military takes over. If it's the security services, do they do it, or do they find somebody they like, civilian-y, but who's, crazy enough, authoritarian enough? I don't know. I'm not going to start yawning at you guys yet. That's an interesting question. I don't know. Carrie Brasky, agree in principle, re-cyber. We were talking about whether the Russians would attack and what happens if a lone American were to launch a cyber attack. Would they hold it against America at large? But unless you work in or for the U.S. Cyber Command, you could get in the way and cause damage that could even be a war crime. That's interesting. Yeah. Well, no, okay. That's a very good point. Actually, what Carrie Brasky is saying is one of the things you worry about with cyber warfare is it can spill out and go anywhere because it's like the internet and everything else, right? Everything's connected. So it can be difficult to do an attack on Russia and not have, the computer virus or whatever it is spin over to the neighboring countries, including Poland and the Baltic states and everything else. So all of a sudden, right, you could disrupt NATO operations, you could disrupt Poland defenses, you could do anything. So that's it. I forgot about that. That's a very good point. Yep. I mean, right, if you're going to do it, you better know what you're doing. Let's put it that way. I have never, excuse me, I'm doing it again. I have never been an expert on cyber warfare. So I don't, meaning on the cyber end, I don't know what one does. I admire it from Anonymous and others. As Ryan just said, Anonymous is leaking more documents. So I very much admire what they're doing, but I don't know how they do it and how they do it in a way that is discreet, meaning they're able to go after this specific target and not have it blow up everywhere else. Tom Messer, surprised that Ukraine hasn't come into Mariupol behind the Russians to reinforce the troops stranded there. Tom, my suspicion is it's lower down on the totem pole. I mean, for example, initially they were worried about Kyiv, the capital. I think that would be the number one priority. You can't let the capital fall. Now the big battle is in the east, and they can't let the east fall. Mariupol is one city. It sucks. I mean, it sucks that it's taken. Also, of course, it's horrific that Putin's destroying it. But part of the reason Putin's destroying it is probably to get Ukraine to almost to force the government to have to come down there and send more troops to take it over, right? To try to, and then they aren't going after who they need to go after. It's one of those, it reminds you of the war films, right? Where they kind of sucker you into going, and the person's like, don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. He's trying to get you to do this. So it's, you'd have to look at I don't know enough about the strategic, meaning what the military's thinking, but clearly Mariupol, matters. Thank you for the merry-go-round. I don't think I've seen that, but not for a long time. Thank you for that on TikTok. You don't hear a lot of people talking about Mariupol is strategically important for Russia, but strategic importance for Ukraine seems to be not nearly as much as the East. So I think they just don't, however many troops they have there, but they don't want to take more troops out of the East and then hamper the effort there. I think it's in a perfect world, sure, but then they're letting Russia pick where they fight, and they'd like to pick where they fight. And, actually, even what I was reading was a lot of what Ukraine's doing are these attacks of opportunity, where they're like finding weaknesses in Russia and sending these small teams in to attack and everything. And that is probably, again, that's different than sending a lot of men to one city that you didn't want to go to. So anyway, what do we got here? We'll grab another TikTok question. And then I will also, in a second, I'm going to do another inhaler of my allergy thingy, because usually I get to do both. All right, Billy, I'm pulling up your question. Billy asks, and then I'm doing an inhale, and then I'll answer. Billy Lynn Johnson asks, any chance that Putin might attack Finland or Sweden? Excellent question, considering the timeliness of what we're discussing. One more, I inhale, and then we count to 10. I didn't quite count that the totally American way, so don't judge Americans, because we would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I guess we would do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We would do that. Yeah. But if we did 2, we wouldn't say 2. We'd say 2. This is what got them in trouble in Dirty Glorious Bastards or whatever, whatever it's called. Because the American asked for 2 beers or whatever, and Europeans, I think, would go 2 like this. So anyway, there you go. Okay, what was I saying? Sweden and Finland, yeah, very interesting. So Putin would be an idiot right now to attack Finland or Sweden, because he's not necessarily winning in Ukraine. And the idea that he's going to go after another well-armed country, well-trained country, I know Finland, especially from what I've read, great military, great weapons, great fighter jets. Sweden, I don't know, but I'm guessing Sweden is no pushover either, especially because NATO, the NATO officials that have been talking and the military experts have been saying they'd love to get Sweden as a member of NATO. That means Sweden's not a pushover. Putin would be an idiot to open another front in this war. They're just crazy. I mean, because what this means is instead of having to fight in Ukraine, and in Ukraine, you've still got 4 or 5 different fronts, right? Then you've decided you've got a war totally up north by 1,000 miles or something, probably 1,000 miles, I'm guessing. If Moscow's 400 miles, 800, whatever. And you've got to send troops up there. You've got to send boats up there. You've got to send planes up there. And now you may not have enough men in Ukraine. Where are you going to get the men to send to Finland and Sweden? And you can't nuke them, because then I think it's the end of the world if he pulls that crap. So no, he's an idiot. I mean, this is the whole thing of, should you be worried anyway? Because maybe he's crazy. Maybe, it's the same fear he's trying to pull on us in Ukraine. I think he's trying to scare people. I think he's trying to scare Finland and Sweden because he wants, especially right now, he's probably going to start doing things to scare them. The problem is, the more he scares them by doing things at their border and stuff, the more Finland and Sweden are going to go, you're right, this guy is scary. We do need protection. I mean, I heard one Finnish lawmaker did a TikTok, I think, And he was, today I saw it, and he was saying, he was in the hallway of Parliament or whatever, and he said, we just opened the debate on NATO. It's a very important discussion. Our opinions have changed because we have seen Russia, we've seen what they've done in Ukraine, and we've seen the world's response to Ukraine. Thank you for that, Amanda. The world's response to Ukraine since it is not a member of NATO, how they will only help so far. So that's the thinking going on right now in Finland and Sweden, and it's right. Putin's only going to make them even more scared. By making them more scared, Putin potentially pushes them more into NATO's camp, because they go, you're right, he is crazy, he's threatening us, we've got to defend ourselves, and we can't defend alone against Russia. Well, maybe you can actually, now looking at Ukraine. Maybe that's the counter argument. Maybe Finland and Sweden could form their own bloc and they'd win anyway, right? But no, the military people have got to be telling him, you're insane. You're absolutely insane if you're going to attack somebody else. That'd be my take. Any other little questions here on TikTok? On YouTube? Oh, that's interesting. Sorry, Nicolina weighed in. Nicolina, I think you're Sweden, aren't you? I'm trying to remember. I think you are. Nicolina says, if Putin attacks Finland, Sweden comes in, maybe Norway as well, and vice versa. That's interesting. I didn't realize you would have that much of not a kinship, but that's a pretty serious deal, going to war because the neighbor's getting attacked, obviously. That's interesting. Okay. That is very interesting. Well, that would be one more reason why you wouldn't want to be going after any of the countries in the region, because even if they're not NATO, then the other countries get involved, and all of a sudden, then NATO, even though you get an issue of did Finland attack or not, because with NATO, Article 5, which is the self-defense, kicks in if you are attacked, not if you attack first. So like if you start the war, like if Finland decides to take over Sweden, take over Sweden or something, as I'll say Norway, if Norway decides to take over Sweden, NATO wouldn't necessarily come to the defense of Norway because Norway started the war, right? So it kind of works that way. But that's interesting. No, that's good to see they defend each other. Looking here, TikTok. Chicago is not the same time as New York. Chicago is an hour earlier than New York. Central time, we call it here. Swedish. That's what I thought you were Swedish. Yeah. That's interesting. The North Country will band together. Good for you. Yes, it's earlier this month. Remember, folks, you can always go. Oh, TikTok number is growing. Hello, TikTok. Don't know why you're growing, but glad to see more of you are here. I'm John Aravosis, normally in Washington, D.C., visiting mom in Chicago for the month. But normally I start a little later in the evening. I'm doing it an hour earlier because I'm here in Chicago and it works for dinner time with mom and all that kind of stuff. So I'm doing, at least what we're sticking with so far, is 6 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central Time, U.S., which is 18 plus 5. What did I say? 23? I'm already forgetting. 6 p.m. Central. Yes, 6 p.m. Central, excuse me, which is 1800 hours, because you drive me crazy when you do that, Europe. 18 plus 5 is 23. I think it is 23. God, maybe I've been putting the wrong time down. Oh, God. All I know is it's 6 p.m. Chicago time. No, 5 p.m. Jesus Christ. Okay. See, this is what happens when you guys get me to do these things before I've had dinner. I'm totally telling you the wrong time for my show. The show is actually, it is 6 o'clock in Chicago now, which means I started at 5 o'clock. I need everything written down. I'm becoming my mother. The show starts at 5 o'clock Central, 6 o'clock Eastern, until I get back to DC. 5 o'clock Central is 1700 plus 5 is 2200. That's what I thought. 2200 UTC. I was originally saying Paris time, but a lot of you found it easier for me to put UTC, so I put UTC. And you can just Google the difference. But man, I totally screwed that one up for you all, didn't I? Sorry about that. I came on at 5. Thanks, Laura. I'm losing my mind. Yeah. You know what it is? I keep trying to think of DC time as well. So I'm kind of screwing things up. Let me grab another TikTok question. For anybody new on TikTok, we're asking folks to submit their questions in the Q&A feature that TikTok has. I think it's a button that says Q&A, I think. If somebody can maybe reiterate that in the comments. And that way it allows me to scroll down and pick one, which is much easier than going through the thing. That's a good question. Perryam, maybe, at Perryam7 asks, what's May 9th? So you keep hearing about May 9th, which is the day that Putin wants his forces to win the war by. May 9th is the celebration in Russia of their victory over the Nazis. So it's the big day that they celebrate victory over the Nazis. And because they're claiming that Ukraine is, a country run by, and I keep meaning to not use that word because I'm afraid it'll get like banned on TikTok, but because they keep saying Ukraine is run by and filled with Enzis, they want to declare victory on May 9th because it's going to be their second victory against the Enzis, just like World War II. That's what May 9th is, and that's what it is. Now, that's the other reason why, like the experts I was reading were just like, there's just no chance. I mean, they're rushing everything. They don't actually, I read that again today too. People are saying they don't have enough troops. They just don't have enough troops in the East for what they're doing. The Russians still don't. And they're starting all this stuff. And if they're going to win it in the next 2 weeks, good luck. Almost 2 weeks, what, 2.5 weeks, maybe? Yep. Let me grab another TikTok question. All right. Oops, sorry, scrolling down to get more of you. Putin does appear sick, but sick people can live a long time. Russia has a new submarine called the Moscow. That is correct, pro hockey player. The Azov question is interesting. You could be a troll, but you could be asking a legitimate question because it is a legitimate question. Air potato or sir potato. I was saying air potato. Air potato is funny too. Thank you, Miss, for that. Okay. And I'll get to you, Michaela. I do see that. I'll get to that next. Air Miss is asking, is Azov good or bad? I've seen both opinions. So this Azov battalion, which is, I believe, most of the folks who are fighting in Mariupol, who are the remaining fighters against the Russians, they are some kind of far right group in Ukraine from the reading I've done. The thing is, my enemy's enemy is my friend at this point, and these guys have been the ones beating the Russians for 7 weeks in Mariupol, so to speak. The Russians still haven't been able to take over that town, and now Putin has been forced to change his game plan because this Azov battalion has been holding him off and winning. And you know what? When it's an existential crisis for your country, you work with people who can fight. I'm very Machiavellian that way, or very realpolitik, or whatever you want to call it. Not realpolitik, but maybe it's realpolitik too. But very just realistic about things like that. Your existence is on the table or on the line. So I don't think they're the best people from what I've read, but it's not like they run the government, which is so Putin keeps saying, A, they're Enzis, and B, they run the whole country and there's a terror campaign. They kill everybody in every city. It's just ridiculous. It's like taking, the extremists we've got here and, some of them do bad things, but they don't run the country. It's that kind of thing. So, yeah. So I'm willing to say they're far right, but, so is Putin, so. Michaela. Okay, just getting these two down. So I'm looking at my questions. I'm going to say Michaela. I'm going to go for Michaela. Midon. Michaela. Or it could be Michaela. Again, see, it's always funny because I don't know what country you're from, and it's always funny trying to get the names right. Michaela. Michaela or Michaela. Of course, with my luck, it's Michela or something. Lawmaker proposes to force... Oh, I saw that. I mentioned that. Yes, I mentioned it at the top of the show. A Russian lawmaker has proposed to force Ukrainian prisoners of war to donate blood to injured Russian soldiers. That would be a Geneva violation for sure. Yes, that would clearly. I'm not sure which one it is, but that would be a violation of the Geneva Conventions. It's probably, that's a clear war crime. That's it. Yet another one. Now, the Russians aren't doing it yet, but, would they if they were desperate? I'm sure they would if they were desperate. It's the kind of garbage they would do. It's horrific. Yeah. Yeah. Now, mind you, it's one person. I don't want to give the Russians a benefit of the doubt, but we all have crazy one people in Congress. But again, knowing Russia, they'd probably be like, Putin probably be like, great idea. Give that guy a medal, just like he did with the other ones. So that's interesting. Sorry, but interesting little point here from, good question. So Solomia weighed in. So my friend Solomia Chernigivska, who is Ukrainian. So give her a lot of sunflowers. Give our sunflowers for Solomia. She says, being Jewish, I don't like them at all, meaning the Azov battalion, but you can't really criticize them while we're fighting for the same goal. They have also changed much since 2014. That's interesting. Okay, I did not know that about since 2014. So they've gotten a little less scary since 2014, which is good. And you're getting, this is nice. She's getting, for the TikTokers, she's getting a flood of sunflowers on YouTube. And for the YouTubers, there's a bazillion sunflowers coming up on TikTok. So and people have even bought a few of the big sunflowers for you, Solomia. So just so you know, very cute. Thank you, guys. Yeah, no, that's, I mean, I'm glad you feel the same way. I would understand if you didn't feel the same way, because I can see for some people being very upset, but I've always been that way in my politics. I mean, you know, there are certainly certain people, for example, I might not work with the Azov battalion getting legislation passed. You know, I might do, that's true. But I mean, if I were like in government under normal conditions, but if I'm in a war for the survival of the country and you've got a homicidal maniac, genocidal maniac who's literally killing, you know, civilians and the horrific war crimes, I would work with the devil to stop them. And then later I deal with the devil, because at least I live to fight another day. And you're saving lives. Even more importantly, you're saving civilians' lives. They are helping to save civilians' lives. That's what's important right now. So no, I'm with you totally. And all the sunflowers we got for you. That's very cute. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Penfield. I see that. Let me pull up another question on TikTok. We'll go another 5-10 minutes of questions. Sorry, I'm scrolling down to get more here. Yeah, I was mentioning, Elena asked about the referendum. I was mentioning that earlier. Elena asks, thoughts on the referendum planned in Kherson. That is the referendum I mentioned where the Russians want to hold, actually, Kherson, they were talking about doing it in Kherson, which is the town that the pro-Russian blogger got killed, whether by a Russian or Ukrainian, we don't know, but he was killed in his car, which means, you know, not good, whatever happened. But they were talking about having a referendum in Kherson to, you know, I guess become part of the Soviet Union, basically, to become part of Russia. And there's talk of them doing the same thing in the eastern Ukraine, the part that Russia's trying to take over right now. And, you know, what one of the defense guys I was reading, the defense analysts who I like, was saying that looking what they did to this pro-Russian blogger who, well, basically the thought is that Ukrainian partisans killed this pro-Russian blogger, that this guy was, you know, a traitor and a collaborator, and they got rid of him. And what this person said was, good luck holding, you know, scam elections if the partisans, especially in that town, it's the very town that you've got these partisans who are willing to go after people. You know, good luck holding the elections, because election officials, anybody else, is going to be in real trouble. Thank you for that. I saw that, Rachel. Thank you. And I would agree. I think that if they try to hold the elections, you go just for full-on guerrilla campaign, you know, meaning this kind of street fighting guerrilla campaign kind of means more secretive, you know. Okay, actually, yep. Sorry, Solomia was weighing in another point. Exactly. Plus, they haven't been able to get any people in the Rada. I don't know what the Rada is. All right, let me look. Is there any? Do we have any other? You YouTubers, as always, you're talking amongst yourselves, but feel free to put a question in. Otherwise, I'm going to TikTok. TikTok is the land of questions. I gotta give you credit, TikTokers. You always have a bazillion questions for me, which I very much appreciate. Sorry, kind of scrolling because I've got to scroll beyond the original ones I already answered. That ship did. Reality check, please. On TikTok says that ship, the Moskva, sank the same date as the Titanic. It seemed to have, at most, it was the day before, because it looks like the Titanic might have started sinking. Like the Moskva, I think. Well, okay. It all depends too. Like, when was it attacked and when did it sink? We still aren't quite sure with the Moskva. It looks like it was attacked at 1 a.m. and maybe sank during the day, if that photo is real of it on fire, because remember, it was daytime. The Titanic, I think, that same day evening put out the distress, and I think it sank early in the morning. So it may have sank, like, officially the Moskva sank on maybe the 14th and the Titanic on the 15th or a day earlier, but they both still kind of happened on the same day. So anyway, yes, it was kind of weird. I would almost say funny, but I'm trying not to. I'm trying not to say things that'll get me in trouble. Andrew Mason, sorry, pull this down. Oops, pulling the question off on TikTok. There we go. Andrew Mason. I'm laughing because the TikTok follower number is going up. It never goes up as the show goes on later in the show. Unless, well, either welcome, unless Unless Moscow got very upset about today's show and you're all here to just cause trouble. I don't know. If you are, we have very good moderators and very good followers who are going to shower you with sunflower seeds so that you may fertilize the soil generously. Andrew Mason, if investigators in Spain find Russian government involvement in the death of the oligarch, we talked about the death of the oligarch earlier, and his family, does that get NATO any closer to joining the fight? No, but it gets Spain more involved in helping, probably. Think about it. The Russians have killed people before. They killed Russians. Remember, horrific what they did with the poisonings in the UK. And, honestly, we should have had there should have been a massive, we all kicked out a lot of Russian embassy people, but there should have been a massive response to them doing that. You don't come on foreign soil and kill people. You just don't allow that. Britain should have just, and America should have joined them, come down like nuts. Now, mind you, America, actually what happened in America was Trump, actually, the interesting story with that was we kicked out a bazillion of the Russian diplomats, but it was reported later that Trump didn't realize. He thought the number being cited was the number overall. He didn't realize it was the number we were kicking out. So we ended up kicking out way more than anybody else. But nonetheless, all of us should have done a hell of a lot more if they would have done more. So no, I don't think it gets NATO closer to joining the fight. It does get Spain really ticked off that Russia came into its territory and murdered people. That's really bad. And, we don't hear a lot about Spain doing much with the war. I don't know. They're members of NATO. They must have some weapons that are pretty decent, I would think, but I don't know. Aren't they? Yeah, of course they're members of NATO. They've got to be. The only ones who aren't is like Austria, Switzerland, like we said, Finland, Sweden. Yes, of course Spain's a member. Yeah. Anyway, that's what I say. It's certainly no way. It's not a big enough attack. You'd almost have to have them come in and kill a Spanish person, but even then, is that enough to declare war? I don't know. We're getting there. We'll go till 20 after. Another couple questions here. Let me boom. Got a bazillion questions on TikTok. I love you guys. I'm scrolling down just to find some of the new ones. I don't know. We don't know. Phoenix is asking about Putin having cancer. You had heard back cancer. There was some talk about whether he had thyroid cancer. There was one report that he had a thyroid cancer doctor visit him 35 times in 5 years, something crazy. Clearly, his face was swollen in the photo that I put up today. We've seen other times of face. His arm is having problems. Who knows? It's a bad day for the Russian Air Force. Oh, did something happen today? Did something else happen? I don't know. Ashley's saying in TikTok, do tell. They're calling, the Russians are calling Mariupol a victory for Russia. They're claiming they liberated it, quote unquote, which is also sick too. Just the language of these guys. They liberated it. They destroyed the entire town, killed God knows how many people, had a mass grave in the town next to it for the people they killed. I will say the fire thing was interesting to me because when I heard about the fires in Russia, I think they're in the Far East, I myself kind of said, that's interesting, but who knows? Who knows? It would certainly take Russia's time and money and some soldiers away to have to deal with it. Russia has, I don't know what Russia has been giving the latest number I saw was 1,300 soldiers killed. Dave in Florida is asking 1,300 soldiers being killed of theirs. And I haven't seen much more than that. Hell, they may have lost 400 on their now submarine alone, right? Not necessarily. Mick is asking, has the UK got defense against Russian nukes? Yes and no. That's a good, we may even close on this question, depending. It's a good question. I actually was asking some of the other experts on here who kind of brought this up more generally the other day, and then I did some research on it. There aren't a lot of good ways of, thank you, Jesse. That's my favorite. There aren't a lot of good ways at stopping nuclear missiles. There are some systems, they can maybe do some. I was actually reading up on this, and it was saying, for example, that the best way to stop a nuclear missile on the ground, like one coming out, you see the silos that are in the ground, you see it open up the hole, they come out. ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles. The best way to get those missiles is right as they're coming out of the ground. And if you don't get them right as they're coming out of the ground, then forget it. You're not going to get them. The other thing is, and this is where you shouldn't be worried about UK's defense, The UK, I read, has most, if not all of its missiles in nuclear submarines. And the reason you do that is the reason we have a huge number in nuclear submarines too, is because nuclear submarines are incredibly difficult to find in the ocean. They go down, 1,200, 1,500 feet, incredibly difficult to find. And the idea is that so I knew Spain was in NATO. Yeah, 1982. Okay, I knew Spain must have been in NATO. Yeah. That if there's a nuclear war and Russia destroys the UK and all of America, whatever, maybe they can blow up a couple subs. There's no way they can get the majority or even a lot of, thank you, Candy, get a lot of US subs. And what that means is dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens, if not thousands of US nuclear weapons are going to be alive, and they're going to go and blow up Russia next. So, and the same thing for you guys. Like I said, I thought I read the UK. I thought I read all of your nukes were on submarines. That's what I thought I read. In any case, it's a lot. So it matters, but it doesn't matter, because the whole point is they know not to attack you because you will destroy their entire country if they do. And there's no way. Yeah, somebody else, John is writing in, UK submarines are not detectable. Exactly. I assume, right, like sometimes you can detect a submarine, you got lucky, but you've got enough. Somebody else read the same thing, that all the nukes are in subs too. Yeah, that's what I read for the UK. And again, maybe they get lucky and they'd get some of our subs, not going to get all of them. So yeah, that's actually very good, obviously, that they've got that. We got two questions. Okay, I'm going to fit, I'll put the questions I've got on YouTube here. Hold on, I'll get rid of that on TikTok just so you guys have a free screen. There we go. All right, Harvey Kittle, put on my geeky glasses. Russian state media have been using language such as "a new pure world is being born before our eyes." Oh God. And the solution to the Ukrainian problem is Putin trying to, and they're using language like the solution to the Ukrainian problem. Actually, Harvey sent me the article. It literally says in there, the article, the solution to the Ukrainian problem. The concern is that this is a reference to Nazi Germany, because the final solution was the Nazis' plan to exterminate the Jews in Europe. So nobody talks about the solution to a country, and especially in a war concept. Nobody uses that unless they literally mean, this will be the last question. This is funny because I said it was the last substantive question. Somebody put up the nighttime image on TikTok, which is, I keep forgetting about that. I love when you do that. And just so people know, of the TikTokers who are there, we still hang out for another 10, 15 minutes and just chat amongst ourselves. So I'm going to finish with this question, but if you want to hang, it's kind of a fun crowd of just people chatting. And I still chat with you, just not about politics. So we can kind of, we kind of zen our way out of the issue. But it's really effed up, Harvey. Is he trying to create a Nazi style sycophantic-like state? I mean, it's really messed up. And the weirdest part is, Russia is so hell-bent on reminding their own people every day of, we defeated Nazi Germany. Look, and the Russians did. I mean, they did a lot. Obviously, they suffered a lot in the war against the Nazis, Stalingrad and whatever, all that. But, I mean, they also were pals with the Nazis and sat the war out for the beginning because they had a nice little peace treaty. And they then became Nazis themselves and subjugated half of Europe, subjugated their own people even before the Nazis, right? Stalin killed millions in Ukraine, horrific, the stuff these guys did. And now they're literally running on a whole motto of we've got to stop the Nazis. And they're literally talking and acting like Nazis. What you are seeing is 1984 George Orwell. And you're also seeing the whole, I don't want to say fake news thing because I hate that term, but people have learned and governments have now learned. The worst people in the world have learned you can just lie. Be the very thing that you're attacking and just lie about it. Accuse everybody else of being what you are, and you're going to make things so confusing that it makes it very hard for people to figure out what the truth is. And that's the whole idea. Yeah. No, that is so screwed up. And they are that just, Russia. It's very sad. I mean, as I've said before, that country's had real problems for a long time and really scary leadership for hundreds of years. And at some point, you got to ask yourself, is it just the leaders or is it the people? I will answer that really quick, but then we'll stop. Somebody had asked on TikTok, do the sanctions end when the war ends? Okay, you guys keep throwing more questions on YouTube. All right. Oh God, two more questions. Wait, hold on. Let me get this here. I see Bash. Okay, Ginger. I'm just putting the little save button, so I've got your questions here. It depends how the war ends, whether we lift the sanctions, and it's going to be up to the Ukrainians too, I think, to a degree. I think, unfortunately, the West is going to be dying to lift the sanctions, so that's going to be the big battle we face. But a lot of it's going to be up to the Ukrainians. Let me pull this up. Oh, there are 3 here. Sorry, or 4. Sorry. Ginger, good to see you. Oh, I'm Ginger. Have you heard of any news on Ukraine being able to obtain a Russian radar system for a Russian fighter jet? No. I was thinking of that other big box that was like a radar jamming system they got. That's a huge deal that our guys want. But Ukraine being able to get a Russian radar system for a Russian fighter jet. I guess I'm not anyway, but I'm not sure the way you're asking the question, whether you mean they were able to get the system from a Russian. Well, for a Russian fighter jet, I guess they've got Soviet fighter jets anyway. They've got MiGs. So they were able to get a Russian radar system. Wouldn't it have a Russian radar system anyway? It wouldn't have the modern one. It would have the older one, I guess, from 40 years ago, but it wouldn't, or 30 years ago. It wouldn't have the modern, but anyway, I haven't heard anything about it. Sorry. I don't know. I'm curious now. If you've got more on it, feel free to put it in the comment for free. Put it in the comments if you would. Bash Brannigan, what should be Ukraine priority, liberating Mariupol or the Donbass? I think it's the Donbass because, again, the whole battle is happening in the east now. I can hear Mom rolling in the hallway. She's going slowly so she can eavesdrop, I think. But I think Donbass is the priority right now. Donbass is the eastern Ukraine, where the fighting is going on. Clearly, that's where Putin has to be stopped. That's the victory Putin feels he needs. And mind you, I know. She walked away now. I'm always a bit because I can hear the roller come by, and I'm always like, knowing my mother, she's hesitating so she can listen. I told her it would be weird for her to watch me live. She wanted to watch live. I was like, no, please don't. But yeah, Eastern Ukraine is what Putin needs to sort of stay alive at this point. So Eastern Ukraine needs to be denied. Mariupol, you get to later. But thank you for that. Mariupol, you get to later. But Donbass is it's also bigger. It's probably more important in terms of industry and everything. Well, now they're probably destroying everything, but I think the East is more important. And oh, okay. Thank you. And then be kind. I did just get, okay. I got the 2 questions. Let me make sure that there wasn't one final, we're hanging here anyway, but make sure there wasn't one final question that I missed. Be kind. Was there another one that I missed or not? Let us see. Gingers. Oh, hold on. Andrew's got one here. Yeah, I think I got Ginger's. Hold on. I'm going to put Andrew's up and then let me know, guys, if I missed anybody else's. Yeah, I've got Ginger's. Okay, I think I've got anyway, I've got Andrew's up. Let me know if I missed anybody else's. Otherwise, as I said, we're just going to talk for a few minutes for fun. And tomorrow, so tomorrow, since I don't totally screw this up, we are going to do 5 p.m. Central, same as today, which is 6 p.m. Eastern U.S., which is 2200 UTC. Yes. So 6 p.m., let's make it easier. 6 p.m. Washington, D.C., 5 p.m. Chicago. And that way you can figure out your time vis-a-vis each. Fridays could be a little slower too, I think. People, to their credit, people go out. I will give you credit for that. Rockbore, thank you for that. So, Andrew, those sailors on the Moskva, which is the big ship now submarine that the Ukrainians sank, suffered a terrible fate. They either drowned or burned to death. Yeah. Their families deserve the truth, but won't get it. Yeah. What people are saying is, okay, we know from the photo, there was the photo of the burning ship that somebody took, or video, I guess, or which was actually the photo because it was a good photo. And you could see fire coming out of, I say the little windows. I don't know what you call it on a ship, but they were like little windows all along the ship on the bottom. And you could see black coming out of each one, but in a pattern. And what people said was that's because that's a sign that there was a massive fire inside the ship down below. And literally the flames coming out of these holes and scorching the outside of the ship. So it had to be anybody down below, from what I was reading, people were saying very hard to believe anybody survived down below. Portholes. Okay, people saying porthole. That sounds like a port key. A porthole. All right, portholes. But Yep. Okay. People are saying it on. Okay, Jessica, you're good too. People on YouTube are saying it too. Jessica came up with it as well. Elmo. Yeah. No, people are saying it was. I don't know if any of you are more experts on this, but the experts were saying they can't believe. And mind you, Putin came up with what was it? They said maybe 100 guys he showed when he had that commander. The commander looks like he survived, of course. Oh, the other thing was it looked like a lot of the top guys survived, like the top brass guys that went because they had like some ceremony with like 60 or 100 of them, but there's 510 of them on the ship, and it looks like a ton of the. What are you doing, kid? All right. Sasha's asleep underneath, but she's like out like a light. I can tell when her eyes are closed. My dog. Yeah. So no, it had to be horrible. But the fact that they're not telling the families, give me a break. I mean, that's just horrible. Yes. Hi to Sasha. I'm not going to get her up because she really is asleep underneath me. So I hate to sort of. She had a hard night last night. We had storms, even though it wasn't thundery. I took her out at 10 o'clock. She saw rain and she got terrified because my dog is too smart and she has learned. Hi from Netherlands. Hey, Netherlands. She has learned. You're giving some good artillery to Ukraine, by the way. We talked about it at the beginning of the show, Netherlands. So thank you to you. But yeah, she gets terrified by rain because she knows that rain sometimes leads to lightning, which leads to thunder. She does have a thunder shirt. I didn't put it on last night because I was just afraid of her getting too warm, But I do have it. I also have some medicine. Some medicine to relax her, which seems to help. She was shaking, but I brought her upstairs and she actually like laid down on the bed with me. So I pulled up a bunch of t-shirts around her and she laid down. And finally I was like, okay, I'm going to risk this. And I tried to bring her. I mean, she sleeps with me, but I tried to bring her into the bed where I'd normally have her. And she did it. Because normally she's so freaked out by the storm. She gets up and runs to the door and is, panting. Oh, it's horrible. Anyway, the reason I'm talking about my dog is because this is the part of the show where we're done. Thank you for the hat. And we just hang out and talk for a few minutes about anything that isn't politics if we can help it. So that's what we're doing. Okay, thank you. Yeah, you updated the link. Be kind, I'm sure. Thank you for that. Oh, that's true. I do always forget the thumbs up on YouTube. I totally forget that. Yeah. Follow me on YouTube. Follow me on TikTok, by the way, too. Hello. Somebody's from Ukraine. You're in Kherson. Get out of here. You are not. You are not. Victoria. You're actually in Kherson? Okay, TikTokers. Thank you. You know what to do. I want lots of sunflowers for Victoria. Victoria, people are going to give them to you on YouTube, even though you can't see it. You're in Kherson. Oh my God. That's the Russian occupied. Wow, that's the Russian-occupied town where the blogger we were talking about the pro-Russian blogger. What was it, Valery Kaleshov or whatever that got shot this morning, and we were trying to figure out what the deal was, like whether he was shot by Ukrainian partisans or shot by the Russians. But either way, we were not exactly shedding tears. Yep, you've got lots of sunflowers on YouTube as well. So, that's fine. From here, son. Oh my God. Not to mention it's getting a little late there too, but also, my God. From a Russian-occupied town. Jeez. Yeah, stay safe. We're assuming you're a good witch, as we say. The Wizard of Oz. Good. Are you a good witch or a bad witch? One of the most famous American movies that we all grew up with. Hello, Australia. Good. You're getting lots of love. I got developed asthma with my allergies. I never had allergies. I moved to DC when I was 21 and living in Washington. I developed allergies. And then the allergies started affecting me and giving me asthma. It's so damn annoying. So annoying. So very upsetting. Oh, I'll go another 2 minutes, guys, and then we are going inside and eating. I am hungry. We went to Costco today, so we have lots of food. Oh, let me tell you, Costco, the vanilla at Costco. Costco has real vanilla. I love Costco. It's this big American store where you buy things in bulk, American style. So like, chocolate chips for cookies, it's like 5 pounds, 2 kilos. Fabulous store. Well, vanilla, right? Vanilla for cooking, for baking. And the normally it's real vanilla is expensive anyway. At Costco, it's always a good price, but they sell 16 ounces of vanilla. I don't know how to even tell you. It's this big of a container, like next to my face. You know how normally you get imagine in Europe you buy the little ones, and we do have those here too. But Costco, it's the huge one, like this, 16 ounces, 2 cups. I guess the Brits will know what that means. For the rest of you, what is 2 cups? 2 cups isn't no. How many cups to a liter? 4 cups? See, I don't have my Google here that I can tell like I do at home. In any case, it's a lot. Well, It used to be crazy expensive. It always was in the upper 20s, like $27, $28, whatever. Then during COVID, the price went up to $33. I mean, insane, the price for vanilla. Now it dropped to 15. Now it's $10 or $11 at Costco right now. We went to in Chicago. I bought an extra one, even though I don't need it, because it lasts for 4 years. One cup is 230 mils. Okay, so it's 460 milliliters of this stuff and of vanilla. 460. So it's okay. Yeah. So it's half a liter then. Yeah, it's half a liter almost of vanilla for $10, which is insane. Absolutely insane. I love to bake, so I use it for a lot of things. I love to bake. I will say one recipe I keep saying I'm going to share with you guys that I haven't. I have a recipe for mug cake. Like you make a cake in a chocolate in a coffee mug. Oh my God, it's a good recipe. I didn't realize the chocolate I'm using in DC is either old. It tastes okay, but nothing special. I used Mom's chocolate. The thing that's interesting about this is it's still like American Hershey's chocolate, which is not gourmet chocolate, but it's baking with John Session. But the one Mom's it's called Special Dark on the label. And I bought it because I was like, oh, dark chocolate sounds kind of fun, even though most cocoa you think, I say chocolate, it's cocoa. You're buying cocoa powder, unsweetened cocoa powder. This Hershey's cocoa powder, the one that says Special Dark, it's written in red or something, Special Dark. Oh my God, this mug cake ended up coming out like the most expensive dessert you've ever eaten in your life. I mean, rich and gooey. The chocolate, oh my God. And the best part is the recipe has oil in it, and I don't even use the oil. So you're putting sugar. It's like 2 tablespoons sugar. I'm going to tell you right now, 2 tablespoons sugar, 3 tablespoons flour. I put a 1/4 tablespoon of baking soda just to give it a little more of a lift. 3 pinches of salt, because that's how I liked it. I'm like my grandmother. 3 pinches of salt. 1.5 tablespoons of baking powder, of cocoa powder, right? So cocoa that's unsweetened, 1.5 tablespoons. And I think that's it. You got the flour, you've got the sugar, you've got the salt, you've got the baking powder, the cocoa. You mix it together. You got to mix it well because everything. You throw in 2 tablespoons of chocolate chips. Mix it, and then once it's mixed, then you add in 3 tablespoons of milk. I add in a little vanilla, and you're supposed to add in like a tablespoon or more of oil. Literally, I skip the oil entirely. Now the problem is it depends on your like in a mug. It depends on your microwave. At Mom's microwave, 30 seconds was to die for. At my microwave, 35 seconds was a little overcooked. And then what I found was it depends on the mug. Some of the mugs get hotter than others. You know how like some dishes you put in the microwave come out really hot? Well, some mugs cook themselves more. So it's kind of hard to say how much. You have to make it a few times. 30 seconds leaves it somewhat gooey, but meaning you have rich, wet chocolate, which with ice cream is delicious. But anyway, I'll have to write it down for you guys. It's the most, oh my God. But I made it with the better chocolate, which again, all it was Hershey's cocoa. But it was the Special Dark one. I almost died when I ate this thing. I use baking soda. Arm & Hammer baking powder. I use baking soda. I always have to remember Arm & Hammer baking powder. I used baking soda so that it would self-activate or whatever it is. And I used a 1/4 teaspoon. And it wasn't in the original recipe, but I wanted just a touch more. I will do a TikTok making it. I wanted just a touch more rise out of it. Oh my God, this thing. Oh my God. Mom doesn't eat that kind of stuff though. I'm the chocolate. She's Greek. I mean, we're all Greek, but Mom was born in Greece. So mom's always offering. Like today she goes, would anybody like some hard candy? I'm like, hard candy? I don't want hard candy. The Greeks, like a lot of you Europeans, but the Greeks like hard candies, like basically sweets. Think candy made from sugar. Whereas as an American, I want chocolate. I want creamy chocolate. I want that. That's my favorite. Mom would want like jujubes, like other Americans know what I'm talking about. Other candies, like those clear colored candies that you can chew on. She wants sugar candy. I want chocolate candy. So anyway, Mom does not like my chocolate. She doesn't mind chocolate, but I live for chocolate, and Mom does not live for chocolate. No. So I don't know where I got it from, but chocolate. I've always thought I think people taste food differently. Like literally, One of my nephew's kids, who's 5 years old, loves pickles, and he literally sits there and just chews a pickle all day long. He loves it. And to me, I'm like, oh my God, pickles. But at 5, he loves them already. I think people literally taste foods differently, or your brain is wired so that for some crazy reason, I still think it tastes different. Because to me, like a pickle is disgusting. I can't even imagine. Brussels sprouts, it's disgusting. Hot foods aren't even disgusting. They're painful, because I think I taste hot food differently than people who eat hot food, who like it. It literally is painful. It's not even a flavor, right? But chocolate. All right, guys, it's 6:40. I'm going to go so I can go to Ma. We will do this again tomorrow, 5 p.m. Oh, shit. I forgot I do have to run. Oh, holy cow. I'm forgetting. I've got to run, guys. Okay, I'll talk to you later. I've got a online doctor's appointment in 20 minutes. I totally forgot about. That's why I was going to end this early, but I forgot. All right, I'm going to sign off on you YouTubers right now, since you're more close to there's no less time delay. And the TikTokers, that was your warning that I'm going. Okay, I'm seeing buys, so hopefully you're caught up. I'm keeping Mom safe in the background for now. YouTubers,